When Vince McMahon addressed his roster and asked for them to display some ruthless aggression, several new faces stepped up and became major stars during the era, joining already established holdovers from the Attitude Era. The ruthless aggression era lasted roughly 6 years, between just after the first brand split and the onset of the company going PG. It gave a platform for John Cena, Batista, Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, and others to launch into the stratosphere, while simultaneously helping prolong or help facilitate the rise of Triple H, The Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Edge, Eddie Guerrero, and various other legends. Like any period in WWE history, they weren't alone in making it so special, and there were a lot of stars from the time who added a lot to it, but are largely glossed over. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 unsung WWE Ruthless Aggression heroes. Join us. Number 10, Montel Vontavious Porter. Initially presented as an overhyped, ultra-pampered, and out-of-his-depth athlete reliant on his agents and entourage, Montel Vontavious Porter soon established himself as the real deal and, in time, became one of the most entertaining acts in the company. He proved his mettle in his United States Championship Series with Chris Benoit, and then added the tag team titles to his collection during his very enjoyable frenemy feud with Matt Hardy. Constantly improving as an in-ring performer, MVP had the gift of the gab and a natural charisma that simply cannot be taught, and was always good value in promos and segments. Sadly, after the first couple of promising years, things started going south for MVP, and he wasn't so much ballin' as struggling to remain relevant. A face turn seemed to take away a lot of what set him apart, and he floundered when he transferred to Raw, settling into a middling tag team with Mark Henry. Typically in the US and Intercontinental title mix, there was hope for a while that he would make the step up to the world title level at some point, but it never happened. However, MVP was a solid mid-card fixture during the last couple of years of the Ruthless Aggression era. Number 9, Chavo Guerrero. Sometimes, if I'm feeling a little down about something, I will make myself feel better by going, "Ooh, Chavo, dun dun dun." You remember the theme. Along with that undisputedly awesome theme music, Chavo Guerrero was a consistently entertaining presence during the Ruthless Aggression years and contributed in various ways. From tagging and then feuding with Uncle Eddie to solidifying himself a fixture of the Cruiserweight title scene to becoming a member of La Familia, Latino Heat's nephew knew his role and always did his job to the best of his abilities. We would all like to forget Kerwin White and Chavo's feuds with Rey Mysterio and Chris Benoit centered around the death of Eddie, yes, but even though they were creatively lacking, Guerrero put the effort in and did what he could to make them work. If Chavo wasn't a relative of one of the most beloved and greatest wrestlers of all time, people might speak higher of his own abilities and accomplishments, but he doesn't seem to get his due as a former tag team, cruiserweight, and ECW champion who always put a shift in. Number 8, Paul London. If ever there was a guy who showed up 10 or 15 years too soon, it is Paul London. A high-flying indie darling before signing with WWE in 2003, London had to wait for his opportunities, but then made the absolute most out of everything he was given. The Texas native shone when put in a title-winning tag team and subsequent feud with Billy Kidman before moving on to bag Cruiserweight gold. Regrettably, WWE paid more attention to the catering menu than whatever the Cruiserweights were doing at the time, so London didn't have much to work with, but you always knew that he would produce in the ring. And that was true of his partnership with Brian Kendrick too, the pair of hooligans somewhat improbably holding the Blue Brand's double straps for just shy of a year, and putting on great bouts with everyone. Sadly, London's prospects faded once he and Kendrick dropped the titles and moved to Raw. Credit to him, he smiled through the apathy, even though it was readily apparent his days were numbered since he was out of favor with decision makers. A spectacular in-ring performer who could have done a lot more with better luck and stronger backstage allies, London's work speaks for itself. And I mean, it had to really, because he was never allowed to cut a promo. Number 7, Mr. Kennedy. Ken Anderson's promising WWE career was constantly hindered by injuries, bad luck, and to be honest, a lot of self-inflicted sabotage. When he debuted on the main roster in 2005, however, his undeniable charisma and unique presentation had some making comparisons to the likes of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, with Mr. Kennedy branded internally as a surefire future world champion. Though he would fail to reach those lofty heights, the microphone master gave frequent glimpses at what he was capable of doing and had some cracking feuds and matches with heavy hitters like The Undertaker, Batista, and Shawn Michaels. Regularly bitten by the injury bug and doing himself no favors with some of his ill-advised public comments, Kennedy ended up becoming a big what if, but he should be remembered for the good work he did create, particularly during those first couple of years on SmackDown. Had Anderson not had a misdiagnosis and been forced to drop his Money in the Bank briefcase to Edge, things might have been much different. As it is, Kennedy is instead pretty much persona non grata as far as WWE are concerned. Number 6. Finlay. Finlay was enjoying life as a trainer, backstage producer, and road agent, and was helping in particular to improve the reputation of women's wrestling when he got the itch to return to the ring himself. The Fighting Irishman was in his late 40s and hadn't regularly wrestled for almost 6 years due to a debilitating leg injury when he decided to come out of retirement. A fantastic addition to the SmackDown roster, Finlay put to bed any concerns about his advancing age or physical condition by slotting right in and having hard-nosed blinders with everyone from rookies like Bobby Lashley to veteran rivals like William Regal. A proper utility player who could work with anyone, Finlay contributed a lot when it came to the development of several guys, including Batista, who credits the Belfast Brawler for really teaching him how to work. Finlay wasn't just some scrappy pro wrestler who gave you a match mind and could also do drama and entertain too, as he demonstrated with his alliance with Hornswoggle and feud with Mr. McMahon and JBL. An unlikely but very successful comeback, Finlay's ruthless aggression return to the ring proved the naysayers dead wrong. Number 5. Victoria. One person who benefited greatly from Finlay's wisdom when he was tasked with transforming the so-called divas into proper wrestlers was Victoria, who was hoping to emulate Trish Stratus by making the jump from the fitness industry to sports entertainment. After an early Attitude Era stint as one of the Godfather's primary hoes, what an honor, Victoria made her mark on the main roster in a feud with Stratus, beating Trish for the women's title in a hardcore match at Survivor Series 2002. From there, Victoria's push would stop and start as she flipped from psycho heel to dancing babyface to villainous bully, but one thing that remained was her consistently high performance level. A true ring general who thrived on making her opponents look good, Victoria had great matches with great workers like Trish Stratus, Mickie James, and Molly Holly, but she also helped those less experienced than herself, including those that came to WWE via the Diva Search, such as Christy Hemme and Michelle McCool. Selfless, hardworking, and highly adaptable, Victoria really was the foundation of the women's division for a while. Number 4. Shelton Benjamin. Fans perhaps began to take Shelton Benjamin for granted a little bit toward the end of his first WWE run because he was so spectacular so often that we came to expect it from him. Bursting onto the scene as a member of Team Angle, Benjamin broke out as a singles star after being drafted to Raw, establishing himself as one to watch as he captured the Intercontinental title and had a string of standout matches. His performances in the Money in the Bank ladder matches were breathtaking, and while he never penetrated the glass ceiling by actually winning one of the things or being a serious contender for a world title, he settled into a spot as a dependable mid and upper mid-carder. Never the strongest when it came to promos, perhaps the gold standard's undoing was his weakness on the mic. He did offset that commendably, however, with his freakish natural athleticism and became a firm favourite. Nowadays, he's an established veteran used primarily to put others over, but we shouldn't forget what an exciting and unpredictable talent he was in his prime. Number 3. Tajiri. Yoshihiro Tajiri was small, Japanese, didn't speak English, and made his name in ECW. In short, he had plenty of things going against him in the critical eyes of Vince McMahon and his gaggle of yes men. Despite all those perceived negatives, the Japanese buzzsaw became a cult hero during the invasion, due in large part to his wacky personality and odd couple pairing with Commissioner William Regal, but also because he was really bloody good between the ropes. Within his first year in the company, company, Tajiri won the light heavyweight, WCW United States, and cruiserweight titles and showed his versatility and comedic timing in backstage segments. As a member of that awesome SmackDown roster between 2002 and 2004, Tajiri had belters with Billy Kidman, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, and a host of others. He's another where you think if only you'd come around a little bit later, there would be so many more opportunities for you. Not that he was complaining, because he made the best of whatever he was handed, and you'll be hard-pressed to find a bad Tajiri match or performance from the Ruthless Aggression era. After he left the company, his presence was certainly missed. Green mist. Sorry. Number 2, Melina. Melina Perez didn't let being rejected for Tough Enough Season 3 deter her from chasing her WWE dream, continuing to pursue it by working on the indies and eventually signing a developmental contract. While in OVW, she formed M&M with Joey Mercury and then boyfriend Johnny Nitro, the act getting over strongly in Louisville before being brought to the big time when the trio arrived on SmackDown with a bang. Melina was great as a valet/manager and added so much to M&M's presentation, but she really showed just how good she was in the ring when she was allowed to branch out on her own, becoming a cornerstone of the women's division. At a time when women's wrestling was far from a top priority, Melina fought hard to change perceptions and had some tremendous matches and feuds with Mickie James and Beth Phoenix. A multi-time Divas and Women's Champion, Melina may have split opinion, get it, with some alleged backstage indiscretions, but in front of the camera there were few who compared, and she deserves more recognition than she tends to get. Number 1, the Hurricane. Stand back, there is an unsung hero of the Ruthless Aggression era coming through. Alright, that wouldn't be catchy as far as the start of the entrance music is concerned. It's certainly not, ooh, Chavo, but the fact remains. Shane Helms shook off the stink of 3 counts and rebranded himself as a superhero, while moonlighting as an ace reporter, of course, upon arriving in WWE for the invasion. It was a great gimmick, and Helms played it perfectly. The character's popularity meant that the Hurricane could be placed just about anywhere and was used predominantly in the cruiserweight and tag divisions. He had chemistry with a range of partners like Lance Storm, Kane, and Rosie, and could do anything from being in a short-term feud with The Rock, which resulted in the unlikeliest of upsets, to making an upcoming star look strong. Once the Hurricane shtick became a little played out, Helms had the sense to change things up and get a bit more serious, leading to a long second reign as cruiserweight champ without the cape and mask. To be frank, if you're not going to sing the praises of Gregory Hurricane Helms, then I've just got one question for you. What's up with